balance of our time. Gentlewoman from New York is recognized.
Good morning, Mr. Speaker, and thank you. And I thank the gentlewoman for yielding me the customary 30 minutes and yield myself such time as I may consume.
Gentlewoman from New York is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, down the hall in the old House chamber stands Clio, the muse of history. Perched atop the room, she is riding the chariot of time. She's watched silently over the proceedings of this House since 1807, and in the folio that rests in the crook of her arm, she records every move, large and small, for the benefit of all generations, past, present, and future. And what she's recording today, I am certain, is a disappointment. The proceedings playing out before us today show a blatant, overt disrespect for the time-honored rules of the House, first written by Thomas Jefferson in 1801. The bill that was supposed to come to the floor today, a bill that would have stripped women of their right to constitutionally protected medical care, was so odious and destructive that some of the women of the Republican conference rebelled against it. It was based on unsound and fictitious science and caused such a meltdown in the Republican conference that the House majority pulled it from the floor for fear that it wouldn't pass. But something had to be done because visitors were coming to town for the 42nd anniversary of the landmark Supreme Court decision Roe versus Wade. On this day, there are floods of visitors here in the nation's capital to fight against that ruling, to protest that decision, and raise their clarion call against the woman's right to choose. In this current Congress, the bill was not brought to us under regular order, as not many are. It had no committee action, it had no hearings, no markups, no witnesses testified in favor or against it, and it came out of the Rules Committee and to the floor today under a closed rule. One of their ever-ready alternatives came to us late last night, which is even worse than the one it replaced. It seems that the majority has an endless supply of bills attacking women's health. Can't pass this one? Grab another. Can't pass that one? Just take the next one. Their insistence on attacking women's health seemingly knows no bounds. And because this bill has not seen any committee action in the current Congress, no one has been able to read it or to weigh in on it, to amend it, and some of us would like a clarification on the sordid history of this bill. The earliest version of this bill was in the 112th Congress, and in it was a phrase that lit a firestorm across the nation. It was, quote, forcible rape, end quote. The bill was indeed the one that would have required women to prove that their rape was, quote, forcible, end quote, so that it could be categorized as, quote, legitimate, end quote. Has nothing been learned here? The next iteration of the bill in the 113th Congress included a provision, now listen to this, America, that would have required the IRS to audit women who had had abortions to ensure that the pregnancy they terminated had been the result of rape or incest. This extreme legislation, a dust-covered holdover from the last Congress, was sponsored by a man originating from a subcommittee composed of 13 men and passed out of the Judiciary Committee with the votes of 21 Republican men. Remember those pictures, America? All those women sitting there, men sitting there deciding what women's health would be about. It's a perfect illustration of a problem we've had for a long time, that men in blue suits and red ties do what women can and should do when it comes to their own health or bodies. This bill is absolutely a solution in search of a problem. As Ms. Fox pointed out, all this is taken care of. There is no tax money for abortions. The bill in its current form would permanently prohibit low-income women, civil servants, District of Columbia residents, and military women from accessing a full range of reproductive services by codifying the Hyde Amendment, which unfortunately already requires no taxpayer funds be spent on abortions except in very limited services. It's been this way for decades. Congress should be repealing these unfair and discriminatory bans, not doubling down on them. Are these provisions still in the current bill before us? We've had no chance to check, and it has been a while since we've seen this bill. This display is a messaging opportunity and another attempt to dismantle the Affordable Care Act. The bill not only threatens women who buy their insurance on public exchanges with federal tax credits, but threatens women who use their own private money to pay for their health insurance on the exchanges. Experts tell us that this would jeopardize the availability of abortion coverage for all women, no matter where they buy their insurance. Now, when the House considered this bill in the previous Congress, it was attempt number 49, and today it is attempt number 55. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, 55 votes. The majority is held in this chamber last session and now this to take health care away from their own constituents. And the House majority wasted nearly $80 million of taxpayers' money to destroy the Affordable Care Act. Infrastructure money, anyone? Time and again, we see the House majority turn their backs on the people they represent and force the extreme agenda, one filled with poison pills that will take the country backward. Backward to a time when women died from back alley abortions. Back to a time of women in desperate circumstances seeking illegal procedures performed by strangers with dirty hands in unspeakable conditions. Backward to a time when medical choices were not the choice of the woman, but of the public. Backward to a time when women who, quote, got themselves into trouble, end quote, by getting pregnant could not work and could not go to school. These choices are personal. They're not public. A woman's actions regarding her own reproductive health should include anyone she deems appropriate, not the politicians in Washington or state capitals scoring political points off her health care. And with that, I reserve the balance of my time.
Gentlelady reserves the